Well, hello everyone. I'm back. We're back. Everyone's back. You've been standing there for a while, just looking at me, waiting for the pod to drop. I'm sure that's not true, but I'm back. It's been a minute. I've been sick, been traveling, been doing other things. My schedule's been it's been wonky the past few weeks, and frankly, not a lot of crazy stuff has happened since the last podcast dropped, really. I haven't had a whole lot of urgency from, specifically, I guess, from the Seattle Mariners since my last podcast. The last one that came out was talking about non-tendering and the non-tender deadline, which is actually the day I'm recording this. I'm recording this before the non-tender deadline. So the first half of this, I'm just going to riff on what happened in the last few weeks of baseball as a whole, and some Mariner stuff here and there for sure, but I wanted to just record today. I got plenty of time to do it, and then I'm recording the second half of this podcast after the non-tender deadline passes, so we will know exactly who the Mariners non-tendered. I think everyone's expecting a couple players to be non-tendered. We'll see how much money, or potential money, I guess, that opens up for them to inevitably spread out over a couple very mediocre players instead of one good one. And yeah, we'll see. And then I'll talk about that at the latter half of this podcast. But just to start, I don't think, awards happened. Awards have happened since I potted last. And 2 Gold Glovers are on the team. Dylan Moore won a Gold Glove as a utility man, which is sweet. I talked about him in my wrap-up position player podcast, and kind of raved about his season. He had a phenomenal year as a utility man and played every position a lot. Played a lot of shortstop. Was an amazing shortstop. Still played plenty of shortstop. But he's just a competent fielder at every position, more or less, besides catcher. And I'm sure he'd be a good fielding pitcher if he could pitch. But he won a Gold Glove as a utility man, which is sweet. I love that. I love good things happening to Dylan Moore. But then more importantly, because more significantly, Cal Raleigh not only won the Gold Glove at catcher, he won the Platinum Glove, which is just the best defender in the American League, which is amazing. Continuing his phenomenal season. He didn't win the Silver Slugger, which I respectfully disagree with, but whatever. He won a Platinum Glove, which is awesome. Totally deserved. He also just switched his agency, which is, I think players do that all the time, but it's funny. He went from Boris to a different agency, and Boris is so anti-extension that, I think it was kind of like, oh, hey, maybe extension talks or might legitimately be on the table now if they weren't previously. We don't really know that at all if they were or not. But yeah, shout out Cal Raleigh, Dylan Moore, Gold Glovers. Both were in my good category for sure of players on this team. So good for them adding some hardware. Roki Sasaki was posted, which is crazy. I don't want to touch on this too much because it's been talked about a lot since that happened. There's a lot more people who know a lot more about this than me. All I know is Roki Sasaki is probably the number 2 overall, if free agent right now, besides Juan Soto. But it was just confirmed he's not going to sign until the 2025 international bonus pool deadline, which is, I think, after January 15th, which is actually super interesting. Obviously, that just means he'll have less time to really acclimate to whatever team he signs with. And it depends on these teams' plans and his view on what he can do and contribute in the 2025 season, but it's obviously less time with a particular organization. But that means he might make more money potentially, and that is really interesting because teams will now have potentially more money to spend in 2025 on him, which is really interesting. Insiders for sure have more info on this than me. I'm not an insider. But teams already have handshake agreements with 14, 15, 16-year-old players for 2025. So we know theoretically every team has a certain amount of bonus pool to give out, We don't know how many teams have already promised a certain amount or not. Like if we're looking at the Mariners, they have theoretically on paper $7.5 million-ish, which is basically the top end of what you can have in 2025. So they're theoretically one of the teams that can offer him the most money from the international bonus pool. But we don't know how many players Seattle's already agreed to, handshake deal-wise. They might have already promised $6 million to 4 different players or a couple different players. What that means is, and what happens a lot, and I talked about this a while ago when I did an international international amateur free agency specific podcast, because the system is royally fucked and it's very unethical. So what is inevitably going to happen probably with whoever is going to sign Sasaki, if they end up agreeing to a deal with him, they can just go back to whatever 14-year-old they agreed to pay $3 million to this year and be like, yeah, so we're actually going to pay you like $1 million now. And the player just kind of has to take that because they don't really have leverage in this situation. They can't really just, it's hard for them to just pivot and get another team to sign them when teams basically already have all these deals in place by then. So it's tough, but Roki Sasaki, not gonna focus on him, but he's like comfortably probably the second best guy available, even though it's through a different free agency lane. Still technically a free agent, international amateur free agent, but it's his talent and his age. It's like Juan Soto is insanely talented, and even a 30-year-old Juan Soto would still be the number one free agent available today. But it's also his age, and same with Roki. Maybe he's not right now. He's probably not valued by teams as like better than Corbin Burns or better than Blake Snell or even some other guys who are available. But he's so young, and it's going to be so cheap. He's comfortably the second best player available behind Juan Soto, so that's super interesting. The Mariners shouldn't be out of it. Roki also kind of mentioned like he doesn't necessarily want to go to a huge team. He doesn't just want to go to the best team with the most money. The most money doesn't really matter here. Every team can kind of give him a certain amount. Like it's not like the Soto sweepstakes where like 5 teams probably are only going to offer him the most money. Every team can sign Roki Sasaki, and he mentioned he kind of wants to go to a team that might be in a smaller market with good pitching development, which can mean a lot of teams. There's a lot of teams that fit that bill. But Seattle, does have good pitching development, and he would step in and be one of the guys. Like it was automatically like, hey, Roki's going to sign with the Dodgers when this came out. And that makes sense, but then most people I know who are really close to the situation are saying like there's probably no chance he signs with the Dodgers. It sounds like Roki doesn't want to be second fiddle, and he would be kind of like fifth fiddle on that team. Like he obviously would be the second most popular Japanese player on the team behind Shohei Ohtani, and behind like Freddie Freeman and Mookie and whoever other pitcher they sign, like Tyler Glasnow, if they bring in Corbin Burns or Blake Snell or something. He wouldn't be like the guy in the market. But if he went to the Brewers, like he would be the guy. If he went to the Guardians, he would be the guy. If he went to the Oakland A's, the Sacramento A's, he would obviously be like the guy. Or even San Diego to an extent. He would be like number one guy. San Diego, sneaky, I think, is who's going to sign him. Yu Darvish is a mentor to him, and he really looks up to Yu Darvish. So I think that was like the second favorite. Yankees could totally sign him, but I don't know. The Mariners should have a chance to sign him, and they should definitely be looking at this as an opportunity for them. It doesn't matter that they already have 5 rotation spots filled for next season. That shouldn't prevent them from trying to sign Roki Sasaki. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's like the Ohtani situation. This is kind of a once-in-a-generational pitching prospect who's let go early by their team, which means you get him on the cheap. If he continued pitching the way he was in Japan and waited till he could be a full-fledged free agent, he would be getting a Yamamoto or even more money than that type of deal. But he's coming over early. he's going to make less money. The team, the Chipilote Marines, are making less money. But long term, this might be the best for him to go to a team that can really develop a pitcher. That's why I threw out Brewers and Guardians, because they're definitely teams who've showed they can do that, and they're in a smaller market. So we'll see. That should be interesting. I mean, the Mariners should be on that list, and they really haven't. It's been a while since they've dipped into the international pool. I think the last player they got was what? It had to have been Yusei Kikuchi, right? And that didn't go super well. But yeah, Roki Sasaki. So what else has happened? The Angels are signing a lot of players. They're making a lot of moves. I don't want to focus on them. They are going for it, baby. The Angels, they're doing stuff. That's for sure. It's kind of like watching, I don't know, it's kind of like watching a child try to complete a task, and you just got to kind of cheer them on, even when you know a lot of things leading to the completion of this task they're not really doing right, or they're just giving their full effort, even though they're not making the right moves. You're just like, yeah, absolutely, for sure, go off, Paramedian and Artie Moreno and the Angels. I like the Travis d'Arnaud signing. I do actually love for them. I think that's a great signing. The Soler trade, I hate. That makes no sense to me, like, at all. Like, I'm still trying to make sense of that. But the d'Arnaud signing, I really do like, actually. So there's that. Dave Sims news happened. I talked about this when the rumors were happening. I tweeted about it the day this officially happened. Dave Sims is replacing John Sterling on Yankees radio. This was kind of the second half of the year. This came up as a potential opportunity with Sterling officially retiring after he came out of retirement. Dave Sims, I don't think he was born in New York, but I know he worked there when he was really young. I think he worked for, what is the WFAN? Is that the correct radio that Francesa works at? I think. Anyway, ties to New York early on in his career. I think he always wanted to go back to New York and work there. This seemed kind of like a dream job for him, which is awesome. It felt like the right time for him to leave the Mariners broadcasting booth with Goldsmith the past couple of years, coming through the minors and the ranks and emerging as, I think, a top 5 announcer in all of baseball. He is awesome. I'm biased for sure, but he's beloved. He elected to stay with the Mariners instead of go to the Cardinals. Recently, showing his commitment to the city and the team. I think everyone loves him. I think it was kind of a perfect transition here for him. So really happy for Dave. I've talked about it before. I tweeted this. Dave Sims is the voice of the Mariners to me. Like him and, I mean, to a lesser extent, Rick Riz. But I definitely watch more games on TV in my life. And I am too young, really, to remember Dave Niehaus. I do remember him. I remember Dave Niehaus a little bit. He's in my really early baseball memories. But Dave Sims took over in, 2009? Right around 2011, 12, 13 is really when I started to be like a fully conscious baseball fan, like watching on TV and actually really paying attention and knowing what was going on. So Dave Sims has been my guy. He has been the Mariners to me growing up. And so this is like bittersweet to say goodbye to him, but really happy for him. I mean, he's like beloved in the game of baseball. I don't think anyone has a bad thing to say about this man. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I tweeted this out as well. Like, he is far from the perfect baseball announcer. Like, truly, I think his mouth says things before his brain is really processing what he's saying sometimes, which can lead to very funny moments in the booth, which are appreciated. And his one thing is he just still can't read a fly ball correctly. Never has been able to. That's his biggest flaw. But I think he was like legitimately a perfect regional baseball announcer. He is beloved. You could tell everyone loved the guy. He did plenty of research. He would always amplify players on the other team while always you could tell he wanted the Mariners to win, but he would always talk about the other team in a good light and players he liked on the other team, which I think a regional announcer should be biased. I think they should kind of want the home team to win and put their oomph behind the biggest moments. And I think that is where Dave Sims was at his best. The little stuff, sure, that's where like his flaws came out. He wasn't perfect. But the big moments, he absolutely nailed the big moments, especially in recent years with the Cal Raleigh call, like the Mitch Haniger bases loaded single, just like the Felix perfect game. I've watched it back a lot and heard his voice, but I was, in the stadium when that game happened, so I didn't get to watch it live. But he called Felix's perfect game. He called the Hisashi Iwakuma no-hitter. He called the James Paxton no-hitter. He is just, I can't say enough good stuff about Dave and how amazing of a regional announcer he is. And nailing those big moments, I think, is 99% of being a regional announcer and getting everyone jazzed. So good for Dave. Love that he is kind of taking over a dream job. And the Yankees are getting younger. I mean, Dave's in his 70s, but John Sterling was like 90 years old, I feel like. So they're getting younger over there in Yankee land. What else happened? Before getting into I want to talk about the awards a little bit. But Hall of Fame ballot came out, and I think I'm going to hold off right now on talking about this. This is a very significant ballot to me personally, and I'm sure to a lot of other people personally. I'm going to hold off. I think I'm going to have a specific episode to talk about this ballot because obviously Ichiro's on here. He's kind of the headliner, I would say, on this ballot. And then Felix Hernandez is on this ballot, which the only thing I'll say about this right now is it's supremely sad that Felix Hernandez is on the 2024 Hall of Fame ballot. With Ichiro is a testament to how insane Ichiro is and how, he played those last couple games in 2019 to extend his wait time, but it just makes me very somber that Felix Hernandez is on the 2024 Hall of Fame ballot. It's awesome that he's on the ballot at all. That's phenomenal. Just the fact that it's this early just makes me supremely sad. It really does. But I'll have a whole episode to talk about this because I have a lot to say about both of those guys. And then also Fernando Rodney is on this ballot, which is awesome. I would give Fernando Rodney a vote this year. Why the hell not? 2012 was literally one of the greatest closer seasons in the history of baseball. And Fernando Rodney, you talk about one of one characters in baseball or even in sports. He has it. He has it. And he then went to the Mariners and was his 2014 was so good as well. It wasn't quite the 2012, but his 2014 season for the Mariners was damn good. And again, you talk about one of one guys, you talk about just uniqueness. Like the Fernando Rodney experience is a thing for a reason. He's iconic. Like he's literally an icon. There's no chance he's getting into the Hall of Fame, but I just wanted to shout him out that he's on the ballot. But I'll have an episode to talk about Felix and Ichiro for sure. Two giants in my life. And I 100% get emotional talking about Felix Hernandez. He means a lot to me personally. And Ichiro as well. They both do. So it's going to be an interesting ballot. Last Mariners thing, they traded for Austin Shenton. Austin Shenton from the Rays. The Rays DFA'd him, and the Mariners just traded for him for cash considerations. Austin Shenton, what a name. A blast. I said a blast from the not-so-distant past on Twitter because I think just because the amount of trades that Jerry Dipoto makes, it, ages us as fans. It kind of accelerates the timelines of when I look back when Austin Shenton was a prospect on this team. He was drafted in 2019 by the Mariners. And it feels like he was drafted in 2015 and was in the Mariners system for a while. It's because he got traded in 2021 from the Mariners. And how many trades has Jerry made since then? Like, 2021 feels like forever ago to me. Like, Austin Shenton feels like he should be 35. But no, he's 26. Again, if you recall, the Mariners traded him and JT Chargois to the Rays for Diego Castillo. And he's kind of he's bounced around in their org a little bit. He's made it up to AAA. He was on their 40-man. He played some for them in the big leagues. And I think there's definitely flashes of his prospect past. He was in the 2019 draft, obviously, so he then didn't get to really play in 2020. I think all the guys in the 2019 draft, I think even guys in the 2018, but the 2019 specifically, that draft, I think a lot of the players in that draft, I think, are going to have weird career paths because 2020 just completely threw everything off for prospect development. So he's one of those guys. He was going to be a top prospect coming through the Mariners system for a little bit, and then they traded him. And they just traded him for cash considerations in 2024, and the subsequent roster move was DFAing JT Chargois, who went with him in 2021 to the Rays, and the Mariners reacquired this year. Jerry is just playing the hits. He's made so many trades that the universe is like, you have now made you've made hundreds of trades with the Mariners. You now have to retrade for guys you've already traded for. He's done it a few times now, but I imagine it's going to happen more if he continues as the president of baseball ops for the Mariners. Like, there's only a certain amount of players that you can trade for. So this is inevitable. It's just hilarious. But this might end up being a fairly significant move in the non-tender conversations because he is an infielder. I don't know if he really has the chops as an infielder, like a middle infielder. But I know he can play first base. I think he can probably play second. If anyone can turn him into a decent second baseman, even maybe a third baseman, why the hell not? Perry Hill. Perry Hill can probably do that. I think Perry Hill could turn me right now into a fairly competent second baseman. So that is something. That was just a funny thing. Once he got DFA'd, all of Mariners Twitter was like, yeah, he's a Mariner. Like, of course they would reacquire him. And why not? For cash considerations, why the hell not reacquire him? I mean, and he can just be a quad A type player for them with maybe upside of an everyday player. I'm very skeptical, but who knows? And that was the last Mariners news. With that news, like, Adam Drude reported that Josh Rojas could be non-tendered to save what he might make, like, I think $4 million is the estimate for ARB. With this Shenton acquisition, they might non-tender Rojas, which I think would be really stupid. But ultimately very Mariners to save $4 million, and because you reacquired Austin Shenton, like, I'm not super bullish on Josh Rojas, but, like, what are you doing? Like, if they're doing that, subsequent infield moves would have to commence. They would need to just pay Alex Bregman at that point, even though I'm not super enthusiastic about doing that. They might as well do it if they, like, Josh Rojas is a useful player. I still think he's a useful player. Just he needs to be a backup, but I think he's a useful player, and for $4 million, God, they're just so unserious. I hate it. They're just such an unserious organization. But I'll get to award voting in a second. Juan Soto's still a free agent. Teams are meeting with him. The Mariners are not meeting with him. I don't even expect the Mariners to give Boris a call about Juan Soto. I don't even think they're conceivably drafting up a potential contract for Juan Soto. I think they're out completely. I don't think there's a chance. There's a 0% chance he signs with the Mariners, and that's sad. But it came out today from Ryan Spader, who I have seen break news before, and this is a report from Marino Pepin, who is a sports analyst, I think Dominican. His report came out yesterday, if you're listening to this on Saturday. Juan Soto is seeking a 12 to 14-year deal for $45 million per season with opt-outs after the third and fourth seasons. That is a fairly significant piece of news if that is to be considered true. Now, I would take that with a grain of salt. But if that's true, like, that would make me even more irate if he signs a deal like this and it comes out that the Mariners, again, didn't even give Boris a call. If you could sign Juan Soto, and the only reason they don't want to sign him is the money, like 100%. There's no position, like, you move players around to sign Juan Soto, you not vice versa. Like, he fits on literally every team. It doesn't matter who is on the team, he fits on every single team in Major League Baseball. This feels like the perfect scenario for a bum-ass team like the Mariners. You give him $600 million for 12 years with an opt-out after season 4, and he kills it for 4 seasons, and let's say the Mariners are bad or something. Then he opts out, and then you don't have to pay him again. That seems like the perfect situation for this team. What would realistically end up happening is the Mariners sign into that deal. He is terrible for Seattle. He completely plummets. T-Mobile Park and the Mariners hitting apparatus sucks all of the good life out of Juan Soto. And then he doesn't opt out because he can't get a better deal. And then he sits on the Mariners rotting for $45 million a year. I don't think that would ever happen. I think Juan Soto, and I'm going to say this right now, is potentially impervious to what the Mariners can do to hitters. I think he's a guy who's going to age beautifully no matter where he plays because of his eye at the plate is elite. It's the elitest we've ever seen, maybe. But that would be kind of funny. I mean, that would be ridiculously funny if that happened. But I still don't think they're going to offer him a contract. Every team can use a Juan Soto. All 30 teams should be calling Scott Boras. Like 4 teams are realistically probably going to offer him a contract. Honestly. I think he might sign with the Red Sox on the low. It would make perfect sense. The Red Sox just need to act like the Red Sox, and they haven't for 5 straight years. But if they act like the Red Sox this offseason, it would make perfect sense. He likes the Red Sox. You send David Ortiz into the meeting, say, hey, you can win here. And with the prospects they have coming up, it just makes sense. The more I look at it, Red Sox make perfect sense. Dodgers will probably offer him money. They met with him. Yankees will definitely offer him a lot of money. Mets will offer him a lot of money. That's about it. I think the Padres will probably be in there. But with the late Peter Seidler, I just don't. I think if Peter Seidler was still alive, I think he'd still be a Padre, to be quite honest with you, which is really sad to say. And that's about it for teams that are going to offer him money. The Rays apparently want to meet with him. Maybe they'll give him, I don't know. All 30 teams should be offering him a contract, man. The Rockies should give him $1 billion to play for the Rockies. That'd be amazing. But they won't. And all teams can afford him. Every single team in Major League Baseball can afford him. If you're sitting there right now listening to me thinking, oh, not all teams could sign him. The Guardians and the A's and the Rays, they couldn't afford him. They could. Every single team in the league could be paying Juan Soto $50 million a year and afford it. That would be more than like all of Lokenday's payroll, but they could afford it. They would not fold as a team. I guarantee you they would not. Same with every other team in the league. So it's sad. It's sad that he is a free agent, and the team that I root for loyally through thick and thin won't even give him a call. That's just, man, that is sad. But award voting. A lot of Mariners weren't really up for awards this year, but we did get some down ballot vote getters. So the Cy Young, Tarek Skubal, and in this award cycle, it was kind of like the only one that was really up in the air was Rookie of the Year, and even then, the only one that was actually up in the air was AL Rookie of the Year. Otherwise, like I don't care about manager of the year, like whatever. But the MVPs and the Cy Youngs were pretty cut and dry. I mean, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani both won unanimously, and I both think they should have won unanimously. And then the Cy Youngs, I think... No, Sale didn't win unanimously, but Skubal did. So Skubal won unanimously in the American League. Seth Lugo got second. Clase A got third. And then Logan Gilbert got 25 points. He got a second-place vote, 2 third-place votes, 6 fourth place, and 3 fifth place, and well-deserved for Logan Gilbert. If anyone on this staff was going to get like MVP or Cy Young votes from the pitching side, it would have been Logan. He kind of had the Logan Webb type season this year, a lot of volume, great, like really good rate stats, but his volume was super impressive, and definitely carried him over the line here. So this definitely can't hurt his arbitration case coming up. Maybe this will make him an extra couple 100,000 votes. Like he got 25 points in the Cy Young voting this year, right behind Corbin Burns, right in front of Framber Valdez. So shout out to Logan. That was expected and good for him. And then the MVP votes, only one Mariner on here. I'm actually surprised there were no down ballot MVP votes for Logan Gilbert, because Framber got one, Tyler Holton of the Tigers got one, and Seth Lugo got one. I'm surprised a Mariners, a Washington State BBWA member did not, one of the two didn't throw a Logan Gilbert vote out here. But Aaron Judge wins unanimously, and Bobby Witt gets second unanimously. Juan Soto gets third, not unanimously, and then goes down the line. And Kyle Raleigh gets 12 points in here. He gets a 7th place, an 8th place, 2 9th place, and a 10th place MVP vote, which just feels good. It doesn't mean a whole lot to get these down ballot votes. I mean, Kevin Pillar, for Christ's sake, he got a down ballot MVP vote like in 2021, I think. But that's cool. It's cool. It's just another kind of feather in Cal's cap for how tremendously good of a season he had this year. That was awesome. And then, yeah, there were no Mariners obviously up for rookies of the year. But the AL Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil won. I don't know who I would have voted for. I think I would have voted for Kowser. Probably. But Luis Gil, I'll say this. I think more so than any other award, I think Rookie of the Year should be, I think stats should definitely factor in as a main factor. I'm going to say that, like most awards. The MVP has like the what does valuable mean to your team? We have stats to measure that next argument. Rookie of the Year, I genuinely think it should be a little bit more of a narrative-driven award than all the other awards. So, like, looking at the American League, Luis Gil, he didn't even know he was going to start before Garrett Cole went down in spring trading. He gets thrust into the starting spot, and he is their best pitcher for 2 straight months. His second half was not good, but this is a whole season award. On the whole, really solid rookie starting season from him, and I think the fact that he covered for Garrett Cole and was really good and didn't even know he was going to have to do that, I think that should factor into the award voting. So I don't hate that he won. People are clowning on like this is his 4th year in the league or whatever. That's like what he's still a rookie by the rules, and so I don't see any point in arguing against that, to be honest. It's just kind of stupid. I think I still probably would have voted for Kowser, but I don't know. It would have been close. I think Cade Smith, I might have voted for freaking Cade Smith. The relief season he had was insane. Austin Wells as well, just kind of being, like, his bat definitely left a lot to be desired this year, but his defense was great as a rookie catcher for the Yankees. He deserved to definitely get some love there. He was the 3rd place vote getter. And then the National League was the more interesting one that I didn't think was going to be close, and it wasn't really. Paul Skeens won over Jackson Merrill, and then Jackson Chourio in 3rd. This was like, if Jackson Chourio or Merrill were in the American League, they would have won unanimously, especially Merrill. Even, I think Chourio too, honestly. I think they both would have won unanimously if they were in the American League. But unfortunately for both of them, like Jackson Chourio ended up having a really great year. He just had a slow start, and then come like June-ish, it was like, oh, okay, he's here. Like, he doesn't look overmatched. He looked really good. Every bit worth what they paid him before he even made his debut. You could see why they did it. Definitely MVP ceiling in the future for him. And then Merrill as well. I think he got 7 first place votes, and then Skeens got 23 and 1. Listen, Paul Skeens had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, rookie pitching season we've ever seen. It's definitely one of the greatest pitching seasons we've ever seen. He started the All-Star game, which is obviously, it's very circumstantial, but that's still, again, narrative. I think narrative matters in Rookie of the Year more than the other awards. He started the freaking All-Star game. It was kind of the year of Paul Skeens. And again, you look at the stats, and it was like 171 innings of 1.96 ERA ball. Like, that's crazy. I think I would have voted for Skeens. I 100% understand if someone voted for Merrill to be first, because just looking at the stats, obviously, really impressive season. I love his approach at the plate, because that's kind of how I play MLB The Show. Not a lot of walks, just swings it a lot, but makes a lot of contact, a lot of good contact. And then the narrative factor is where I think you totally could have convinced someone to vote for him over Skeens. He was a shortstop, and in spring training they say, hey, we're going to play at center field. And he played a good center field and had a tremendous year at the plate as a rookie for a good baseball team in the Padres that made the playoffs. That matters. Like, the fact that he had to just get thrust into center field of all positions when he hadn't played there before, and he handled himself. If you voted for him for that reason, totally understand it. Like, that's insane. Like, that should be factored into the voting, just the fact that he did that. So that's what I think. I still probably would have voted for Skeens. Just what he did was just ridiculous. But you know what, Padres fans, if there's any Padres fans listening, you know what's great about this award is that it doesn't matter that much. And Jackson Merrill is on your team still. So he doesn't, he's not getting jettisoned from your team because he lost Rookie of the Year. So there's that. Other awards, whatever. I don't really care about the other awards. But yeah, I'll stop it here because I have non-tendering to talk about. So I'm going to pause. And then tomorrow I'm recording and going to see what happens with the non-tendering. So I will be back to talk about who they non-tendered, who the Mariners have non-tendered. All right, I'm back. The decisions have been made. The Mariners are non-tendering Samuel Haggerty, Austin Voth, JT Chargois, and Josh Rojas. I will start with the less surprising ones. Chargois was already DFA'd again as part of that Shenton trade, so this is not surprising that they cut him loose, and that also doesn't shock me. I think I predicted probably I might have non-tendered him myself in that podcast a few weeks ago. And then same with Haggerty. He was in AAA or hurt all of last season. He was set to make close to $1 million this year. But also, it was like, I don't know if you were confident in paying that dude at all coming off his injury, like torn ligaments in his knee. He's still recovering. He still will be recovering throughout the whole offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if he's brought back on a minor league deal come spring training time. If he doesn't land somewhere else. Like, if he's back in AAA next year in Tacoma, in 2025 for the Mariners, that would not shock me. I still think he can be a useful player to just have around. And the org probably still likes him, but that decision made sense. Austin Voth, this also made some sense to me as well. I thought they would be DFAing 2 relievers at least. I think I predicted Austin Voth was one of them. It was between him, Chargois, and probably Thornton as well. But I came to the decision myself that I would want to keep Thornton for his couple $1 million salary next year. And Voth would have been a similar salary, like a couple $1 million. And Voth was good last year. But I think, like, if this is a cost-cutting measure where they think they can get this production from somewhere else, I think that's fine. Austin Voth wasn't amazing last year. He was a good addition to the bullpen. Like if it was just a solid addition to the pen. But I think they can get that production either cheaper or just from a different source. I mean, they already have Troy Taylor coming up to gobble some innings, right? So feasibly, he will take plenty of the innings that they're going to miss from Voth that they got from him all season long this year. And then you have potentially Matt Brash coming back after the first month or two of the season, maybe in June. Theoretically, also Gregory Santos would be healthy to start the year next year, hopefully. So I think you have plenty of innings that you're counting on from guys already in the org that you can replace Voth with. So that doesn't shock me. Holding on to Spire and Saucedo and not non-tendering either one of them was shocking to me, actually. I thought they were going to cut one of those guys loose. I'm glad they kept both. Both are up for not a whole lot of arbitration money. I think both of them will be like between 900 to like 1.1 million. I'm assuming in arbitration. Both totally viable, like lefty relievers. Saucedo obviously was the more helpful of the two last year, but they both definitely had a step back from 2023. I think it's probably still worth them trying to find another lefty reliever that is either more reliable or just flat out better, either through free agency or via trade, which I'm sure they could do. I don't know if they will do it. If Spire can just get back to what he was in 2023, like Saucedo's more of a bulk lefty guy anyway. Spire could be that high leverage lefty that he was in 2023. We saw it. He was amazing. And then last year, it just kind of the wheels fell off with his injury. I don't think he ever really got fully healthy. Obviously, that disrupted his whole year. But then when he pitched, he just looked terrible. So them holding on to him signals to me they're hopeful about a healthy offseason with him and working with him again. To get back to closer to what he was in 2023, because that would be huge if he was anything close to 2023 next season, because they need it. That's the lefty out of the pen was kind of is a weakness last year. I mean, I think they could still go out and trade, include someone in a trade. If they trade with like the Rays, just throw in Garrett Clavinger in there or something. I don't know. We'll see. But those are the relievers. So basically, I mean, got rid of two relief pitchers, and Sam Haggerty was not a shock. And they're going into 2025 with like if they non-tendered more relievers, that's the only part of this organization I can really say I'm confident in. Is them finding more useful relievers for maybe cheaper or even just the same price, just different relievers who are more effective. I am fully confident that they can probably do that. This org has proven that they're pretty adept at doing that. So I don't get very skeptical when they make these type of moves with relief pitchers. So what I do get skeptical of is when they make these types of moves with position players, and that leads me to Josh Rojas. I mentioned earlier in the show that Adam Drew did tease that they might non-tender Josh Rojas after the Austin Shenton acquisition, and I guess seeing what they have in Ryan Bliss, and I guess potentially Tyler Locklear, but not at third base. He'd be a first baseman. But maybe what they see in Ryan Bliss, maybe they're really confident again in Dylan Moore. Maybe they think Shenton's just going to be a great second or third baseman. They cut Josh Rojas. He was set to make, well, I guess they non-tendered him, didn't cut him. Same difference here. He was set to make around $4 million in ARP. So he was one of the more expensive ARP guys that they could have non-tendered. Like Luis Urias would have been up for a decent amount of money. But he was off the team. Who else? Yeah, I mean, it was like George Kirby, Cal Raleigh, Logan Gilbert, like all of those guys obviously were staying on the team. Randy, but then Rojas was kind of in there as a I didn't see him at all as a potential non-tender, to be quite honest with you. Not even just because $4 million is not a lot of money, just because he was a pretty useful player last year. I mean, he ended up being a below-average hitter on the whole. He had a scorching April, but then he should have got more love for a potential Gold Glove over there at third base. He was phenomenal. He played there almost every day. Really, really good defense. I mean, that is useful for a team, despite I think he was like a 92 OPS plus bat, which is not amazing, but still with Gold Glove defense and comparing what else they had at third base, like obviously a little Rojas more third base platoon is just not going to cut it, I think, for like a championship team. But what Rojas did last year I thought was very helpful for the team. And going into 2025, I was very adamant that keeping him makes sense. I mean, keeping him for around $4 million is like, what? Like, that's really nothing. And he could be a backup second base, third base. He could even play the corner outfield in a pinch if you need him. But like a backup second base, third baseman who can hit from the left side and play solid defense for you and is just a veteran who's been around the league and can hover around a league average production with less plate appearances than he got last year, like that's a useful player. That's him and Moore would be very useful players off the bench for this team if they just played a little less. But no. So now this signals to me probably they have some semblance of a plan to address third base and or second base. But the real kicker with this tweet that Adam Drew tweeted out is he announced the non-tenders, and then he says, quote, moves this week have freed up about $8 million in the payroll budget, roughly doubling what the Mariners are projected to have available this offseason, end quote. So that means they have around $16 million to spend this offseason. Obviously that's not going to include the arbitration guys because, yeah, like I said, Randy, Kirby, Gilbert, Cal, I might be forgetting one, but they're all up for arbitration. They're all going to make significantly more money than they did last year. So I think that's factoring in a little bit. That puts them like roughly soft capping themselves around $150 million payroll, which is pretty embarrassing. There is like no reason that they shouldn't be touching $200 million as a seemingly, quote, competitive team that they want to be. So that kind of sucks, especially when you consider $16 million. We already knew they weren't really going to be in on big free agents. They just don't do that. But one of those free agents is probably going to be either Carlos Santana or Justin Turner. I think Justin Turner probably gets that money, but I think there's a report that they could bring back Carlos Santana as just a veteran bat who can DH, play first base. I wouldn't hate it. I've been totally for that. That's what I thought they were missing from the last couple off seasons is that kind of signing, that 1-year veteran that can really help. And we saw what Justin Turner did to the team after the trade deadline. It was a little too late, but still, he had a great impact on the team. I don't expect his bat to be as good as it was this year as next year, but still, I think he'd be a useful piece for this team to play some first base with Luke Raley, who they really probably only want to play against right-handed pitching, and then also DH from time to time because I don't think Garber's going to DH a ton next season. I think he's just going to be a full-time backup catcher unless he really hits like they expect him to. And then Mitch Haniger, DH now. Mitch Haniger should be off the team. They should cut him and eat the salary. But anyway, $16 million. That means like half of that goes to Justin Turner or Carlos Santana. Like that's a 1-year, $7 or $8 million deal. Probably for either of those guys. So that's half. And then the next half, they have to kind of spread around over a relief pitcher, probably, and a addressing second or third base. I just don't see that as realistic for them to do because that just means they're going to have to really hit on kind of penny pinching and jumping in the bargain bin for a second or third baseman or just an infielder of some kind. And they haven't really showed that they can do that very effectively in the position player market. Again, relief pitcher, I'm sure they'll sign one. I'm sure they'll sign a couple minor league deal relief pitchers. They might even trade for a relief pitcher, and I would trust that they made probably the right move. When they jump into the bargain bin and are so limited on getting guys in the infield, I don't really trust that they can do that. This organization hasn't shown they can really do that. And that is what they're going to need to do given the constraints of this payroll. Clearly, they can't just go out and pay Alex Bregman a shit ton of money. You know, like, can they even afford Ha-Seong Kim at second base at this point? Like, I would appreciate if Ha-Seong Kim was on this team. What I would do if I was really a serious baseball team and I owned this team, I'd be like, hey, go out and give Willie Adames a bunch of money, and we're just going to put J.P. Crawford at second base. Bada bing, bada boom. There's your offseason. Then you trade for Alec Boehm or something. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Third base, like I think Alec Boehm, that has been a name that's been thrown out. I wouldn't hate if they traded for Alec Boehm. Like Miguel Garcia is a super interesting name that the Royals are looking to trade. Less, I think, lower floor at the moment than Alec Boehm. But I tweeted a little thread about him. I think he has a higher ceiling than Alec Boehm, and that trade is more in line with what I think the Mariners would do. I think it'd be a little cheaper than Boehm because of the season he just had. It wasn't amazing. You're getting really good base running. You're getting really good defense at third base, and there's potential. Like, his bat-to-ball skills are really good. The power's not quite there, but I think there's something in his bat. I think he's not like a bad bat. Like, he has really good bat-to-ball skills. He doesn't strike out a lot. He squares up the ball a lot. There's something there, and if Edgar is back with the team next year, I feel like that'd be a fun project for him. And it would be a cheaper acquisition with a higher upside type of third base move. And doesn't that just kind of sound like something the Mariners would try to sell you on, and it wouldn't work, right? But Miguel Garcia at least offers some type of upside, more upside than I think Luis Urias, that move did. And then they're just gonna sign Brendan Rodgers for a really cheap deal to play second base, and that's your offseason, folks. So get ready for that. Man, $16 million to spend this offseason after a back-to-back disappointing seasons of missing the playoffs. After you claimed you were all in. You got a new coach. Potentially Edgar is back as a hitting coach. You got a core now entering arbitration, a provenly good core. And you have $16 million. Realistically, they have 10 because, again, 7 or 8 of that is going to Justin Turner. So, sweet. Good stuff. And hey, I'm glad they saved $4 million with Josh Rojas, a useful player that they non-tendered. Good on them. It's more of this saving money by getting rid of useful players thing that they did well their trades last year. It's this is just so suboptimal. This is just not the way a serious baseball team goes about building themselves. I can't believe it. And Mitch Haniger's making $17 million last year or next year. They have less money to spend than one Mitch Haniger contract in 2025. What the hell? I just can't believe it. I'm going to end this here. I have more to say about this team, but ultimately they are just going to have to start wheeling and dealing. It's about the time. Non-tenders just passed. There's a clearer view of who is a free agent now, who might be up for trade now. This was really the first big deadline of the offseason, and we are past it. And so now I think a lot more moves are going to happen. Trade-wise for sure. Free agency, I think it all kind of depends on Juan Soto at the moment. I think the offseason moves with him, with the bigger free agents. So not really, this doesn't really concern the Mariners. The Mariners can sign Brendan Rodgers, and that, none of their signings are hinging on where Juan Soto goes because they're not interested in giving him a call. So, but I think it'll be interesting to see. I think this offseason could really drag on if Juan Soto takes a while to sign. But it would be cool if he signed next week. And then teams would just kind of have to scramble to get Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman and the rest of the position players that are not really as good. They're probably each position player after Soto is probably like 2 or 3 tiers below him. That's the pitchers are better this year for sure. But Juan Soto is Juan Soto. The Mariners are not in on him. This was another edition of the podcast. I will be back at some point this offseason. There's not going to really be a set schedule for my recording at all. We're going to record when I can record. When stuff happens, yada, yada. You get the drill. But I appreciate you listening. I hope you have a good rest of your week, a good Thanksgiving if I don't record before Thanksgiving, which I probably won't. And let's hope that the Mariners do some good things in the next couple weeks that I can talk about. But thank you for listening again, and goodbye.